Welcome back to the Matter of Facts podcast on the Prepper Broadcasting Network. We talk prepping, guns, and politics every week on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spotify. Go check out our content at mwfpodcast.com on Facebook or Instagram. You can support us via Patreon or by checking out our affiliate partners. I'm your host, Phil Rabalais. Andrew and Nick are on the other side of the mic, and here's your show. Welcome back to Matter of Facts podcast. There's three of us in the studio tonight. I'm here, Nick's here, and we grabbed Trek from MDFI to come and give us some qualified opinion to match up against weaponized autism.
Yes.
I don't know. He might contribute weaponized autism too. We'll just have to see what kind of a show it turns into. But I do have to do admin work and answer some questions that already started in this chat before we even went live. So... First of all, let me do this in reverse order. It works better that way. So yeah, apparently Nick made a comment about we got above zero, and Raggle, who lives close to me, immediately lashed on the fact that you are not Phil. What have you done with him?
I have the Phil now.
Yeah, so just for the listeners, like when you comment and we answer you back, no matter whether it's me or Nick that answer you back, it comes across as Phil Rab because that's the account it all goes through. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if I say it was below zero today and I'm talking about Fahrenheit, I'm talking about Celsius, all of Louisiana is dead.
Yeah.
Or we've all lit ourselves on fire trying to keep warm. But anyway, quick admin work. We'll start getting into topics. First of all, got to thank the patrons, of which Jeff Yegazinski in the chat is the newest one. We've actually had 3 new patrons come on just in the last 2 weeks.
Nice.
And I'm probably way overdue to like round them all up, name names, shame people, and remind everybody of your poor life decisions supporting this podcast. But I really do appreciate it because it lets me have fun and not go into debt, which makes the fun much more fun.
It does.
Code MOF at Disaster Coffee. If you like really good coffee, you should get a Disaster. And if you get a Disaster, you should use the promo code MOF because it saves you money. And I hate capitalism, apparently, because I just promote this constantly. And I actually berate people. If I catch you putting in an order and I recognize your name and you didn't use a promo code, I will find you and I will berate you about it.
He will text you personally.
I have literally done it to people. Like, literally, my phone dings, order from Disaster Coffee, and I'm immediately texting the person, be like, why didn't you use the promo code? That level of internet badgering is only possible in 2026. And merch of the Southern Gals. Lots of funny t-shirts. We kind of had a thing for raccoons for a while, and Burt Gummer. And I think the shirts that we offer were cheeky and fun, and sooner or later, we're going to have to take another look at that merch line and maybe put some Warhammer into it.
We could.
We
should. Well,
all right.
We'll have to be very careful about that because GW is extremely litigious.
Anyway. So let's start off with a nice, fun little mini topic. A friend of mine who may or may not be watching, I'm not sure. I did tell him we were streaming tonight, and he knows how to find me if he wants to. But he asked me the question, like, he said, why don't MAGA seem to believe in the Second Amendment? I brought it out to conservatives. And I have a working theory that I'm curious how, if you two will, like, agree or disagree about this. So I personally don't feel like the average Republican politician really is comfortable with the idea of everybody having guns. Like, they might talk the talk, especially on the campaign trail. They'll do what they got to do to get the NRA to give them the little stamp of approval, even though everybody knows how I feel about the NRA. But I don't really believe that the average Republican politician is like really religious about the right to keep and bear arms. I think it's a fun talking point for them to try to sway people to their side, but I just don't feel like they believe it. Because if they did, they'd be screaming bloody murder about every single gun law that's on the books, and they wouldn't be defending any of them, which they seem to kind of do. Mm-hmm. So Nick, Trek, who agree, disagree?
Nick. Well, I think that for the most part, politicians don't have any incentive to actually support most of the Bill of Rights. In fact, it takes away from their ability to do the things they want to do with us having any of them. The Second Amendment, especially because that is the amendment of, well, or else. That's the or else to the U.S. Constitution. As far as conservatives generally, I think that when you really corner a person on their beliefs, there are very few people that do think everyone should be armed, because everyone has had a crazy neighbor or the psycho ex or the crazy crackhead down the street. Those people, you kind of would rather not be armed, but there's no clause in the Constitution for the crazy ex or the crazy crackhead or whatever. Now, we've throughout the history of this country decided that there is a way through the judicial system to remove someone's right to the Second Amendment. I think that it's too broadly applied the way it is, but I can understand why they would want mentally defective people not to have firearms. You know, somebody that's been locked up in a nut house a number of times and ruled by a judge mentally deficient. I get it. But it's technically unconstitutional, in my opinion.
Guys, it's great to be on again, and I apologize. I'm getting used to this and the fact that the lighting in the RV makes me look like the Emperor. I'm just missing a hood. I apologize. I apologize to everybody.
We can get you a hood.
I'm hearing myself in a little bit of a muffled voice, and everybody in chat. I was going to have to log into YouTube to respond to you. And right now we're having good signal in the middle of the desert. I'm not messing with anything. So I can read you. I just can't text you, and I'll respond to you here. Guys, it's great to be back. Quick caveat before we get into this. First of all, your question right off the bat, has already interrupted the flow of where I wanted to go tonight, but I'll definitely partake. Everything I'm about to say tonight, as an instructor with MDFI, this is me and me only. I'm also a board member of the Brian Terry Foundation. Everything I'm going to say tonight is me and me only. I do not represent the Brian Terry Foundation. I don't represent anyone that I worked for in the past or anybody I work for now. Quite simply, I'm going to be the one that actually is a little more not of a diatribe. The average politician doesn't give a rat's ass about the Second Amendment. They don't even understand it. They use it for talking points, and that's about it. There are people like Congressman Massey. He gets it. I absolutely believe. I mean, people can say disagree or agree with some of his politics. A guy like that, he understands the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment does not give us the rights. They enshrine the rights that, and I'm an agnostic person, but as God created us, it just enshrines those rights of self-defense. And we really get to see the true colors of politicians. We kind of know left-leaning are always going to be more anti-gun. It's amazing what we're seeing right now. We'll talk about that. But we really get to see the true colors of quote-unquote Republican or right-leaning politicians when something like this happens. And it's not that they show us their anti-gun status. They just show us how dumb they are when it actually comes to what the Second Amendment is all about. And I'm sure we're going to dive into quite a bit about that tonight. But thank you guys so much for having me on again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always great to have you, man.
Yeah, and there's a couple people in the chat already beating our brains out about why it's
I've been a gypsy, man. I've been a gypsy man.
A busy guy.
I mean, I guess it's partially my fault because I get stuck in my little bubble until somebody taps on the shoulder and says, "Hey, dummy, it's been like 6 months.
Well, with
everything back on
everything that was going on, it was just like we've got to talk. We've got to get on and talk about things."
Yeah.
No, this is one of those. This is one of those topics that, I can't see doing it without you because you have the knowledge and the perspective to unpack this in a way that I don't know many people do. But before we get to that, this is something I was actually going to talk about on the show with Nick, and I decided to insert it right here, right after why don't conservatives believe in the Second Amendment. But I've seen a lot of people on the internet that seem very aghast about, all of a sudden the left believes in the Second Amendment, which I think illustrates a profound lack of understanding of the left liking the Second Amendment amongst the average conservative. Because a lot of people are mistaking this as, well, all of a sudden, all these left-leaning people are in favor of carrying guns. So all of a sudden, maybe now they'll support the Second Amendment. And like I told Nick before we rolled, I'm like, no, they actually don't give a shit about the Second Amendment. They're not in favor of everyone having guns. They're in favor of revolutionaries having guns. The average hardcore lefty, Democratic socialist, communist, pick your ist, absolutely does not want and does not believe in counter-revolutionaries having guns. Period. In discussion. They do not believe in anyone they would label fascist having guns. They 200% do not want anyone to have guns that's going to resist their attempt at a takeover or a color revolution or a change in culture in this country. Period. In discussion. The Second Amendment is not their goal. They are about them having guns, not you.
Well, you got to remember
the only parallel I draw there is, and I really hate to throw shade at like people that are right leaning. There's a lot of people on the right that feel the same way. They're not in favor of everyone having guns. They're just in favor of them having guns, which annoys me just as badly whenever I look at either side. I am the meme that's like, you're both
for
freaking
the Second
terrible.
Amendment.
But yes, and every single time somebody says I am pro-gun, but I feel this visceral clenching in my soul where I just want to like snatch their trachea out the front of their neck, because I'm like, the word "but" negated everything you said before the word "but."
It definitely can. Phil, do you remember when we were talking about Zelensky's rules for radicals?
Yes. Actually, Trek, if you missed that one, that was a fun episode.
One of the things that Zelensky advocates for is holding your enemy to their principles. The Second Amendment,
forcing them to live by their principles,
theoretically a conservative talking point. So the left uses this as a rhetorical device to beat us over the head with our own principles, in theory. That's part of the reason why the left is really hammering at this right now. It is being used for propaganda and a rhetorical device saying, oh, well, your politicians really don't believe what you believe, attempting to sway some conservative or independent voters.
Yeah, I mean,
that is part of this.
With what's going on right now, the reality is it's because our team has the ball. That's the reality.
Yep.
And I still, to this day, even with what's going on in the world, I don't worry about the quote unquote left anti-gun argument falls apart the moment facts get levied on it. The biggest issue is still the I'm all for the Second Amendment, but our side. And we're seeing that right now with what's going on. And I still take that as a far greater threat because, you know, whether it's Phoenix Ammunition, Justin there chatting on Twitter X with the Socialist Rifle Club of Minnesota, basically saying, no, we don't want anybody else to have firearms. That's not a Second Amendment issue. That's just our team has the ball. Playbook, whatever it is, we're going to try to demonize you and divide you a little bit more. But I right now, I'm not worried about the left and their sudden love for quote unquote the Second Amendment because they don't know, they have no idea or understand about what the rights enshrined by the Second Amendment are all about. But it is a great divide wedge that you can just hammer in. And so, yeah, I mean, the biggest issue I have right now are the words coming out of the executive branch and the cronies that are in the executive branch, because that actually has weight. That has weight of more guns. And we'll talk about those guns and what they can actually do as we go on. But yeah, I mean, right now the playbook, and I've already posted in our MDFI alumni group, be careful of the machine. The machine right now is working on turning responsibly armed, not even right or left. We're left leaning, right leaning. They're trying to take people that would sit down and have a good conversation with one another, albeit on different ends of the spectrum. And they're trying to turn them into vectors of divide. That's exactly what's happening right now. And it's happening in high def 4K, slight edits, whether it be to the face of the guy, whether it's a quick AI edit, or it's just a partial clip of something that in the full Monty would have given everything away, right? And so we're all right now and it's not just right or left that we're being played by a machine. There are so many different factions that are trying to play a propaganda war that's why I'm really here is we need to set the emotion aside, get down to the brass tacks, talk about the real issues, and then how do you protect yourself from those issues? And then if you can't agree with what we're talking about, then what are your next steps? And that's really what I'm here tonight to talk about. I want glue to pull those that lean right and left together because we are being pitted against one another viciously. And if we can stop that and realize that I'm down here in Truth or Consequences, Elephant Butte, which they filmed the movie Eddington. And if you haven't seen the movie, it's it's kind of awful. It's a dark comedy, film noir. Joaquin Phoenix plays the most awkward, inept sheriff, and the whole movie is about getting the people fighting, and it takes place during COVID, and it was great because we were in the grocery store where they have this big interaction about mask mandates, and the whole idea of the movie is they get us fighting over the silly stuff while they're building this data center that nobody is paying attention to. And so that's all that's happening right now. There are some very serious issues. Make no mistake. The shooting that took place with Preddy and Good, there's some very important things that need to be talked about. There's it's good and bad.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's being spun in a weaponized fashion. And if we can put a stop to it and just make people think critically, make them separate the issues, because right now they're being crammed together. And I put down here unintentional upset or feelings. It's not to be trite or rude. Just like when I had to talk about the McCluskeys coming out pointing their stupid hip shooting with the AR and the little Walther PPK at a crowd of people. And I got a kitten calendar guy like really mad at me. I'm going to upset people, and there's people that probably I consider friends are going to be upset after what I have to say tonight, and it's too bad because I just want to sit down with these people and say, listen, if you truly believe what you believe, then we are way past discussion, and then there is a serious discussion that needs to be had, but I just don't think we're there yet, and so that's why I'm really looking forward to getting into the nitty-gritty.
I think for a percentage of the population, we are beyond.
I think it's very small. I think it's very small.
And
I think we think that.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
it is a very small percentage.
But I do think that like the edges of that particular bell curve
100%.
were there even before this.
Absolutely, they were.
Like I don't know. I don't personally believe, and I have nothing to back up that belief other than just maybe naive optimism. But I don't believe that this incident pushed that many people in either direction. I feel like those slivers were always there and already were. I have to say that, like, because Trek, you mentioned like the AI deepfake that I've seen, which on the immediate face of it, and if anybody's not aware, like there is an AI image out there that portrays this situation very, very differently the way it actually happened. And for the briefest of moments, I was like, that's weird. I haven't seen that angle before. And then I noticed one of the officers had no head.
Yep.
But I'm going to tell you that the information war and the propaganda war being fought right now, like there was a moment when I first learned about 5th generational warfare, which is like controlling the information and social media engineering, yada, 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 where I thought to myself, I'm like, but certainly the average person is smart enough not to fall for that. And now I am realizing I gave my fellow man way, way, way too much credit. And there is a large cross section of this bell curve that is just not sophisticated enough to realize they're being played.
Warning labels on plastic
I mean, the average American,
warning
the average
labels
American
on
is a
plastic
one-issue voter and also a headline reader only. The average American has less than a 10-second attention span. I just posted and I apologize. It was a 17-minute review about a catastrophic can issue that I had with Wit Machine. And it was 17 minutes long, and I went in depth. The average, I have a lot of people that liked it. A lot of comments on it. When you actually go to the insights, the average watch time is 1 minute, 30 seconds. So people don't actually know what I said, but they liked it and commented on it and I knew when I posted it, like maybe the president of the company will actually watch it. And he did. He actually commented on my video, but the average person doesn't. And that is the truth. And media knows that. And the politicians know that. And we're seeing it in that's why we have these shows, because we can get into, instead of the MSNBC, ABC, Fox News, where it's 12 heads taking up the entire screen. They're yelling at each other. It's like The View, and you only get maybe 30 seconds to actually state your point. Long form, and Joe Rogan and the like have made it where you can actually get to the bottom, the root stuff, and actually talk about it. And that's, everybody that's here, Broad Texan, sorry, Trek, you can't upset me. That's awesome. But people like that are here. They're here that they want to have this discussion, and I guess that's the caveat that I would say. If just like the Kyle Rittenhouse, and I'm very proud of the 3-part series that we did way back when, because, and Phil, I even told you, like, we're going to do the last of the 3, and they were going to read the verdict the next day, and I'm like, we've got to do the last show the night before, because I don't want what I'm about to say to be after the verdict is read, and people are like, well, Trek, you kind of knew what was going to happen, and we got everything right with the discussion that we had.
Yeah.
And what's important about that is saying, okay, we have to remove emotion, and that's hard. That is really, really hard to do, especially with the machine and the weaponization that's going on. We have to get to the root causes and the facts, and then you can have your feelings, but you can't let the facts go away just because our feelings are hurt. And then, of course, solutions. And that's, I hopefully today with what we're going to talk about, I have some solutions of how we can move forward with what's going on. So, yeah, it's man, I used to tell Allison when we're watching, we don't watch the news that much, but the news would be on, I'm like, man, I can hear the machine churning. I can see what they are doing, the grinding of trying to get us to fight. And it just made me nauseous because up until, recently with what happened with COVID, that was it. That's where you got the news from. And now what we're finding out is, there's some guy named Cam Higbee that's blowing up the entire color revolution from infiltrating a signal chat group. The U.S. government and the mainstream media are like, what's going on? What's happening? And it's like, now we have citizen journalists that are actually getting news and information out to people where we can make calm, educated decisions based on the best information that we have. But if you read a headline, and that's all you take, you're going to fly off right or left, and you're just going to start bouncing off of other atoms until someone splits, and then there's that explosion. And that's what we keep seeing. We're seeing, and I'll go into it, but what we're seeing is direct results of our fault, the people of this country, and we got to stop it. We got to stop it cold.
All right, so let's shift into gear. Let's start with the facts of this incident. And this is, I don't expect this to be difficult, but I might be mildly surprised, Trek, because I know that you have the ability to separate facts from opinion, but there's been so much information poured out, and so much of it has conflicted with other information and been recanted later, or another viewpoint or another angle has come out that made the previous information that we took as fact now be in question. When this all first happened, in our little patron group, we were, even those of us who have some knowledge of use of force and some knowledge of self-defense and the principles involved, even we couldn't come to a broad consensus. I don't know what the split was, but there was a spectrum of opinions all the way from I screwed the pooch all the way to I did nothing wrong. And every shade of gray in the middle about how much any one party should be held liable for what happened.
Yeah, so let's go back to one that I got wrong, George Floyd. I was on this show, and I was talking about how Derek Chauvin was absolutely wrong in everything that he did. And here's the problem. The problem was we were withheld information from the government. The medical examiner stated that he did not die from suffocation. It was not because of a knee on the back of the neck. Now, based on the information we were given, and that's the problem. We'll talk about that. The government, when they say that, just like where I'm going to talk, you're going to hear me say the report of investigation quite a bit tonight. That's a problem. When things are withheld from the public, that's a dangerous thing. And we're also going to talk about, this guy's still in prison. He shouldn't be there. What I'm trying to do is trying to not get things wrong, and I'm going to have to do so by the information that has been vetted. But the problem is some of it's coming from the government. So I'll put that caveat out there that I'm doing the best that I can, not being there, and being there. It doesn't mean that I'm perfect. And so here's what we do know. This gentleman was at what would be called a definition between protest, mob violence, or riot, interacted with ICE agents during a use of force incident, well armed. That's not that big of a deal, but well armed. He was shot and killed.
No,
he was shot and killed. Those are the actual. Those are the facts of. Man, it's like the Matter of Facts podcast. Those are the facts of the matter. Everything else, what happened on 13 January with him screaming, abuse me or assault me, bro, and kicking out the taillight, just like George Floyd. And all the violence that he did before the incident where he was killed, just like Kyle Rittenhouse and all of his life up until that shooting on that night in Kenosha, Wisconsin, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as far as that use of force encounter. Now, it's going to matter a lot, and we'll go into it here. So Here's the challenge for what we have, and this is where people lost their mind. And I've got, I won't call them out. There's a friend that I have on Instagram. We've never met in person. We have very similar interests, and man, we're constantly talking back and forth. And I've seen him. He's going through some vitriol with people that are followers, and they're. Now, here's the thing: if you think that cops can't do any bad, this is not the right conversation for you. You should probably come at the very end when I have to talk about the thing as a whole. If you think that all immigrants are evil, you should probably not listen to what I have to say. If you can separate emotions from facts, you're in the safe spot. You're in the tree of trust. So what we know is that while being detained, it does not matter at this point in time if it was right or wrong. If a law enforcement officer comes up to you and says, you are being detained, there is a certain script that must be followed. And it will be figured out in court. So whatever was going on, and people are getting, like, he was protecting this woman. And other people are like, well, the woman was obstructing. And then he got in and tried to obstruct that. It doesn't matter. He was being taken into custody by sworn law enforcement that, as of right now, and I'm basing it on, are operating under the executive branch constitutionally. And I'm going to talk about how that can change here in a second. During that use of force encounter, while he was being detained with a firearm, someone in that gaggle, and we'll talk training here in a little bit, because I had an interesting comment come up from a family member tonight about it. During that gaggle, where I think it was 5 to 7 ICE agents were taking this individual into custody, he did not, as far as we know, he didn't go for the gun. He didn't have the gun in his hand. But he was being detained while armed. The fact that he was witnessed committing a crime on 13 January while armed, and I actually know of an individual who's my alumni that is one of those agents. They did not know he was armed during that detention until after they let him go. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. So while he was being detained, one at least, possibly more of the agents noticed he was armed and announced gun. Gun doesn't mean kill. Now, that's why when we talk training, there's some things that when you get into federal and law enforcement, you got to be careful of training. But they announced, hey, he's got a weapon. One agent secured that weapon. What it appears is that not everybody got that memo, and the gun was actually removed from the equation. Now, here's where it gets very interesting, and only because it's a damn SIG 320. If it wasn't a SIG 320, the answer would be absolutely easy. But what happened is the gun went off. It appears the firearm discharged. I'm betting ND. Finger in the trigger. Why? Because damn, SIG ain't just that unlucky.
When I watch the video, there's a couple of slow-mos that you can watch of the officer with the confiscated firearm. It looks to me like his finger
I would
is
bet
inside
money.
the trigger.
And it's just because SIG ain't that unlucky. I mean, they've had a right. So
no.
So individual running away with the subject's gun, NDs into the ground. Now, at that moment, 10 rounds.
We've got an
into the back, or doesn't matter where, into the subject on the ground. Okay. This is where the world lost its mind, and this is the most important thing that we have to talk about. The objective person, or the objective, the rule of the objective person or officer, the reasonable person or reasonable officer. Objective reasonableness is where I was actually trying to go with this. Reasonable, which comes up in case law all the time, does not always mean correct. It just means reasonable.
Right.
In my opinion, what occurred, and this is only my opinion at this point in time, is the Titanic equivalent of a catastrophic chain of events. I don't care about what he was doing. Legality of the law enforcement, I have to give it to him right now until the Supreme Court or a court says that what they were doing out there was not. They were taking an individual into custody. I am taking a guess that what happened was some of the officers did not get the picture that the gun had been removed from the equation. There was an ND. That was definitely the fault of an agent. You fired a shot. The officers that did not get that memo thought they were taking fire from what they had been announced as an armed subject, and they shot. That is not an excuse in any way, shape, or form for what happened. It's not murder.
No, but it is a rational chain of events.
An investigation is going to be done, and I've had so many people say, "Well, they're going to cover things up." Well, there's an officer-involved shooting process that goes through for any time some officer fires their weapon, especially if they strike another human being. I don't know about the chain of custody where all parties are claiming that people were denied to the scene and this and that. I have to give the benefit, and I'll tell you why in just a few. I have to give a benefit to the fact that the ICE agents didn't just hide and destroy property like maybe hosing off a roof in PA after a presidential attempted assassination, right? I have to assume that they did their evidence collection processes, and whatever happened with jurisdictional nonsense, like in a movie, was done properly. If it wasn't, those people are going to be in trouble because there's going to be definitely, I think, and to be honest, I think this is going to be one of the most researched law enforcement shootings in our generation. And because of the fact
it is a massive, at least, point of training for other
and we'll get into
jurisdictions.
The training. Yeah, the training issue is a big thing. Environmentals are going to be a big issue. But to get back to what's going on, and I posted this, there's been a good discussion in our MDFI alumni group, and there's a lot of people that are very upset. And I had to post today that people are saying, well, if they had just arrested him on 13 January, this wouldn't have happened. Yeah, probably, because he would have lost the ability to carry a gun or he would have been in custody. It doesn't matter. Butterfly effect, flaps its wings, rain or snow or sunny day over New York City. All we know is that this guy is dead. People say murder. Murder requires a lot of things, and intent is being one of them. Negligent homicide. Negligent homicide, that's a very important word, but that still requires some things. But when you start to factor in the rule of the reasonable officer, in this case, or rule of the reasonable person in a civilian self-defense case, there are, and this is when you start to hurt feelings, this came up from case law after case law. If you've ever heard a story of someone that was shot where the officers were not charged and they had a cell phone, this is that exact same scenario. And it was because the officers, when placed in harm's way by the very government that represents us doing things that we do not have lawful charge to do, make a call and a mistake that a human being can make. There's a big difference between a cop goes to jail and then a cop just loses his job and the state or the federal government pays millions of dollars to a family. And that is qualified immunity. Qualified immunity is where a cop does everything right to the best of their human ability. They have no want and disregard for policy, procedures, or law, and they're human and they mess up. That's what that means. It does not give cops carte blanche to murder people and say, qualified immunity, bro. And here's why. If they don't put the investigators, the prosecutor, the grand jury, and possibly a jury, we don't know. This very well may go to a jury trial. Because even the report of investigation that has come out from the federal government has not said that he was bearing arms. And that's they got it right. He was not bearing arms. He was armed, but he was not waving around nor drawing nor attempting to draw a firearm when he was shot. This very well could go to trial. My guess, when they put this, when the investigators look at it, when the prosecutor looks at it, even against the court of public opinion, which is not educated on the fact, and I don't mean that in a derogatory manner, what they're going to find is there is so many decades of case law that these agents are outnumbered, no backup from state or local law enforcement, surrounded by a hostile mob like they were in a foreign country in a U.S. military, loud noises being blasted at them, vulgarities being blasted at them, threats being blasted at them, and a mistake happens. And a horrific thing happens. My guess, agents lose their job, large settlement to the family, no criminal charges. Based on the fact that I have seen at FLETC, where I went through the very same training that all ICE agents are required to go through, the Criminal Investigator Training Program at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center in FLETC, Glencoe, in Georgia. I have seen in their use of force classes the case that made the very argument for objective reasonableness was cops shooting a guy in the back in film 1. And when you look at film 2, he whirls around at 11 o'clock at night, suspect that failed to stop, believed to be armed and dangerous, wields a silver colored object towards officers. One of the officers dives out of the way, and his fellow officers burn this guy down in the back. It was a cell phone. People lost their mind over it. This was back in 2003. People lost their mind over it. What proved the very definition of objective reasonableness? Who in the hell dives out of the way of a cell phone? Nobody. That officer,
Yep.
everybody
there thought it was a
because
gun.
they're amped up, because their heart rate's in their throat. This guy wouldn't stop.
Mhm.
He's a known violent felon. He whirls around out of his pocket
Mhm.
with a small silver object. These guys have lost friends. They've heard stories of cops being paraplegics and quadriplegics, and they burn them down. And when the smoke clears 10 seconds after, they're murderers in the eyes of the public. But if you put any civilian, any Leo in that situation, 9 times out of 10, they would have done the exact same thing to go home and hug their loved ones. There was no ill intent. There was no hostile intent. Now I'm going to caveat, and I put this in my alumni group. You show me a post or a text or a voice recording or a chest camera of that officer going, ha ha, I knew he didn't have a gun. I killed him anyway. Throw that dude in prison for life. I bet you that dude sobbed. I bet you that dude saw his entire world. He saw the family of that guy that was throwing vitriol through him. That would have killed him if given the chance and could have gotten away with it. And I bet you he cried. I'm betting. His life's over. He knows his life's over. In his head, his life is over. It doesn't matter about his job. He's probably worried about prison. But that's it. That's the rule of the reasonable officer. So that's what we know. What I'm cautioning people about, and I've been trying to tell people about, is wait. You weren't there. You're not a grand jury. You're not the investigators. You're not the prosecutors. And what happened was a lot of people, friends of mine, that didn't enhance their calm like John Spartan, they got really worked up. And lo and behold, last night when the BBC dropped that video of now a pattern of criminal behavior, and it starts to make people go, damn, I might have picked the wrong horse. It doesn't change what happened the day he was shot. But absolutely 100%, not just in the court of public opinion, when you get into a self-defense shooting, and let's say it's gray, it's not clear-cut, good self-defense in the eyes of the investigators and the prosecutor, they're going to go to your neighbors and the people that know you, and they're going to say, hey, what about Trek? If they're like, oh, man, what a dude. Every time, like, I've been sick, and he's mowing my lawn. He helps my mom with her groceries. Trek shot somebody? No. If Trek shot somebody, they deserved it, because Trek is like the nicest dude versus, oh, he's a menace to society. And there are people that have had good shoots, but everybody that knows them in society externally, they are a menace to society. And I'm not saying that they necessarily went to prison, but they went to trial because the prosecutors are like, I can't, Normally I would just say that maybe don't do that again, but oh man, your track record says that we've got to put you in front of a jury. And so what's now shifting right now in the court of public opinion, that was far different than 2 days ago, is this guy's history. And now things are, this is not vetted, but it seems to be pretty good. So I'll leave it at that there is a color revolution, organized signal chat, doing things, trying to cause issues. And I would warn anybody that's part of this, like, they're setting you up to die by cop, to use your body as a talking point. And I'm going to give those people too the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to tell them where they're wrong in a different way at the end of this with my third point. But that's what we know. And a lot of people, and then what happened was the smoke is still coming out of the barrel of that gun or guns. And now you have people crying murder. You have people in the administration, in the executive branch, that should be shutting their mouth because they're part of a wheel and a cog that is supposed to give a fair and equal treatment under the law, saying, oh no, not just he was a domestic terrorist, because he was armed, he is now a bad guy. And I'm looking down at my waistband going, bro, I got 21 rounds and a stabby thing and a spicy thing. And in my bag over there, I got a shooty thing. And I'm a good guy that's spoken at the state capitol twice. And I was protesting the treads that are happening on our Second Amendment. Now you, that are supposed to be a conservative government, don't get me started on Epstein's pal. But now you're saying that because I'm armed, that I can't go to a protest? No. It is the actions. And this goes back to a speech that I did at a wedding many years ago. And you hear the clothes make the man. And I'm a firm believer that slogan came from people that have never done anything with their life. And if you look at Ellison's book, The Invisible Man, the actual, not The Invisible Man, the horror movie, but The Invisible Man, talking about we don't see you because you have no value. It talked about guys that had a penny to their name, but they dress to the nines. And what they were trying to do is they were trying to show everybody that they were rich, but they were actually dirt poor. The clothes make the man, to me, comes from people that haven't actually done anything, but they can try to flaunt it even though they don't have it. I believe that the man makes the man. The actions of the man make the man. And that's the problem is we have to look at what's window dressing and what is actually happening. The actions make the man. So I am not a vigilante. I am not a bad guy. No one out there in chat, none of our left-leaning friends that are currently bearing arms at a protest lawfully. I got to tell you, there's some silly combinations of firearms, but we can work on that if you come over to our side. We'll get you squared away. But you have the right to have a Ruger 1022 at a protest. Keep that muzzle controlled. Don't muzzle anybody you're not willing to destroy, kill, or purchase. Treat that gun like it's loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger. Engage that safety when not working it. And then, of course, know your target's background and foreground. Rock and roll. Rock and roll. Because if you're being responsible, you have every right to do so. And that kind of leads us to our second point is how to throw fuel on a fire when the owned side throws a hand grenade into the mix. And that's where we're standing at right now.
Yep.
And can I just say that the executive branch's comments following this have been like the fallout from that all across social media has been the absolute most infuriating fucking thing to watch. Because at a moment in time where this country is already this divided, where there's already this much controversy about what the executive branch is doing among Republicans and their own voting bloc, you let your FBI director shoot his freaking mouth off about how just being armed is cause for concern. Like, this administration needed to drive a wedge into its own voting bloc and split the Second Amendment community neatly in half and decimate the support they already have. In that moment, I had this, I think I just heard Nick's furnace. It's a noise I'm very familiar with at this point.
Yeah, that's my bad. It's either that or I record up in the office, and the times we record, the sunlight right in my eyes.
I'm not mad. I hear the
just wait
noise
until my neighbors in the RV next to us start talking. It's going to be like they're in the room with us. There's some trade-offs when you live in an RV. Hey, they're having a great educational lesson tonight about use of force because they can hear every word that I'm saying right now.
Hey, invite them over.
I have two cats staring at me right off camera, and they're luckily not making a fuss. Good. So that's great.
Yeah, but like I said, I mean all I've seen is mostly Kash Patel. I cannot imagine he's the only person in the Trump administration that has made or is making stupid comments that are butchering their voting base. It's been a little frustrating to watch though, because like Nick knows how I feel about this subject. I go to the grocery store with a handgun under my shirt.
Yep.
I go everywhere I'm not going to get a felony with a gun under my shirt.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to get a misdemeanor trespassing charge, I'll probably, roll the dice and risk it. But like the idea that, so me knowing that there's already a large cross-section of law enforcement officers across the country who are already scared to death about the average person having a gun under their shirt, the last thing I personally, or we as a group need, is this freaking idiot opening his mouth in front of all the cameras, broadcasting loud and clear to law enforcement.
Well, I'm going to do a bit of a caveat here.
Too.
And we're down in Elephant Butte, New Mexico, visiting my parents. My dad's 89, took a really bad fall this last summer, and he's doing really well. And it was really good to spend some time with him. I fell so far from the tree politically and everything in my life. And I think it's because of my military service and whatever it is. But I actually had a really good conversation tonight. It was my last night. We're moving on to warmer pastures. Sorry, warmer as in 75, not 60, where it's like we're really roughing it here. It's like -20 back where I'm living, so thank God. But my stepmother brought up she is a creature of being fed from the mainstream media. And right now, one of the biggest things they're throwing out there is lack of training. Well, you are looking at someone that is the Director's Award recipient for the Criminal Investigator Training Program in 2010, CITP 003. I went through the exact same basic program that all ICE agents are required to go through. And I was talking with my stepmother when she was making this comment. She thought that they were just taking people off the street because that's what the mainstream media is saying. And I said, and I also talked to my wife tonight. I said, you know what's really interesting? The cats that we're seeing, they got a little bit of spare tire in the midsection, and they're looking like late 30s, 40s. Those aren't guys that are coming right out of the academy. Those are guys that have either been an ICE agent for a while, earned the right to be plainclothes, because that's a whole other level of difficulty and danger, or they're lateral transfers where they already have an 1811 certification. They've gone through the basic program, and then they go to ICE to learn ICE-specific training. Well, I remember two things from that academy that really stand out in what the guys are going through. And I would agree with this. Training's not the issue, but there are some specific training. The average federal agent has not been surrounded by a hostile mob like we were in Iraq. That's something that, man, they're going to start incorporating, because even cops that deal with like the Ferguson riots, man, they go to riot school. They learn form testudo, and they're like, unleash hell. And, all the little beanbag rounds go out. And of course, some guy rides by dressed like a centurion, whatever. That's a joke. I wish that was actually true. But these guys, they go through a lot of training. And the two things that I know they went through: traffic stops and dealing with neighborhoods and the drama that can take place. So one of them that happened as far as training goes is I was one of, out of 40-ish students, I was one of only 3 that had actually been a cop before this training. Most of my people were in the Air Force, a lot of NCOs, and a lot of really new lieutenants. And I was one of only 3 out of this entire class that had been a cop. So when it came to traffic stops, I'm like, yeah, I've done 1,000 of these. So the instructors thought, well, we're going to throw a monkey wrench into old Utrecht there. And so what they did, they were like, all right, well, you've done this before. So as I walk up to this role player, and they have people that we've never met dressed in civilian clothes. The only thing is, if there's a gun, it's a red gun. A red gun is the same as a real gun. There's no live weapons allowed on this training facility. And as I walk up to the car, doing my job, observing the driver from a distance, as I approach the B pillar, I notice a Sig Sauer. Of course, they're carrying a Sig. It was the good ones, the ones that don't go off on their own. And it was a 229 red gun. And it was up on the dashboard, wedged in the window, and the driver had both their hands on the steering wheel. As I walked up, I introduced myself and said, hey, sir, my name is Eric Utrecht. I'm with the Joint Task Force down here in Brunswick, Georgia. Listen, I see you have an awesome Sig Sauer right now on your dashboard. Do you have any other weapons on you right now? And he's like, no, sir. I'm like, hey, let's have a really good conversation. Just do me a favor, keep your hands right where they're at, leave that gun where it's at, and we're not going to have any problems whatsoever. Do you have your license and registration? He did it. We went through the whole thing, and the instructors at the end were like, Trek, what's up, man? He's got a gun right there. And I'm like, sir, in the great state of Georgia, you do not need a permit to have that gun right up there on that dashboard. And he said, outstanding. And what he told me was, with a lot of the new troopers that were coming in, we got a blank gun on. They've had people walk up, see that gun, draw, and put a freaking blank round right in the driver's head who's holding onto that steering wheel. That's the shit. That is the stuff that is weeded out in training. You either get it or you get recycled or you're gone. And they've had it where they explain not only federal law, but state law to these troopers, because you're training in Georgia. And oh, by the way, this is what state troopers and local guys are dealing with right outside in the real world. So that was one. And I know these guys are going through that training, and they're taught a gun does not equal bad guy. It's what the gun is doing. It's what the person is doing. Are they obeying your lawful commands? Where is their hands going? So that's one. The other one is, I had been a team leader for numerous exercises, and we did use of force exercises constantly. And the instructors, they were like, hey, Trek, you've been a team leader. You got it. You're going to let one of the other guys go. By the way, you don't even get to raid the house. You're watching the cars. And I'm like, what? You got to be kidding me. Well, okay, I'm going to take a break. So the guys go up, they announce the warrant, they kick down the door, and it's a big training neighborhood. And I'm by the SUV, just like these guys are by the SUV. And right as they're going in, this woman in a bathrobe comes running out of the neighbor's house. And she's a role player. She's got a big old camcorder. And she runs right up to the curb and she starts screaming, Jimmy, they're coming for you, Jimmy. Get out of there. The cops are coming. And I go, yeah, Jimmy, we're here. Run, Jimmy, we're coming. And I'm yelling shoulder to shoulder with her. And she actually starts laughing. She's a role player. She breaks character. And she goes, what, you're not going to stop me? And I said, ma'am, you're standing on the street. Stay out of the yard. We're not going to have any problems. And so what was funny about it, why she broke character, is she was expecting to get her ass beat. And I actually got the opportunity doing an exercise a couple days later where I watched another team doing that exact same exercise. And the moment she came running out, the dude football tackled her. And they had to stop it. They had to blow the whistle and do out of roll, because this poor woman in curlers in a bathrobe with no padding on, who's getting paid an hourly wage to be a role player, just got football tackled. And they had to do a use of force thing. Like, dude, you can't tackle a U.S. citizen who's standing on the public street who just might be pissing you off. And that's one of the big things. So I know that these guys have been through that training. Now, here's the kicker for anyone that's listening. With great power comes great responsibility. The more we are trained, the higher standard that we are held to. If during this investigation that I don't know, and I've pissed a lot of people off because I'm like, I hear the yelling and screaming, and I see them going hands-on with this woman and OC, and I see them tackling him, but I wasn't there. I don't know the jurisdiction. I don't know the line that was crossed, and I don't know what they're taking him into custody or her using force against her on. But the reality is it's going to come out where if he simply walked up, they had no lawful authority, and they beat the crap out of him and killed him, that we're getting into that realm of it's not qualified immunity. You violated everything you were. Now people are going to jail. Everything. If he wasn't, it's not just if it was declared an unlawful assembly, and he was in fact impeding law enforcement in their duties, and he was resisting arrest, it doesn't mean the shoot was good, but it doesn't mean someone's going to prison. Now I apologize for that long diatribe. I want to get back to this executive branch. I firmly believe that because of what has been done by the FBI director in the executive branch, by the director of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, saying that he's a terrorist and was wanted to shoot it up. I'm a member of the Brian Terry Foundation. I love the boys and ladies in green that are out there protecting our borders. If I'm not mistaken, even the head, the former who just got relieved, whether it was relieved or not, he said they were here that guy was here to massacre my border patrol and my ICE agents. And I believe the president of the United States even said that he was up to no good because he was carrying a gun. I firmly believe because of that tainted, the fruit of the poisonous tree, that the investigation should still continue against the agents because there was a use of force that ended in a human life, an American life being taken. That needs to be independent, but it should be an automatic multi-million-dollar lawsuit, civilian side, for the family, because they have violated what they are. They are the top of the executive branch, the law enforcement branch of the United States of America. They have tainted anything. We just can't lump those guys in. Those poor dudes on the ground, we cannot lump them in with the idiocy that has come from our executive branch. And that's where a lot of people, they're butting heads with each other. And if we could just say, give the guys that we give guns to and say, do what I am not willing to do. For whatever reason, be it I am out of shape, I am not trained, I don't want to die for my country or die for my fellow man, whatever the reason is, give them the shake that we need to give them to either be a criminal or innocent. Give the family justice of the person who lost their life. And they will get justice. I really hope so, because that'll take me to my last point if they don't get justice. But the executive branch, they need to be held to a very high standard. And it should be an automatic, multi-million-dollar settlement immediately to the family. And then people can lose their mind saying, well, he was a domestic terrorist. Yeah, he was. Maybe. No, he's not. I don't know that yet. But even if he was, he's an American citizen that is allowed due process of law. And by the top of the executive branch violating that due process, it's an automatic, not that you're acquitted or that you are allowed out of whatever you did, but you are automatic. Your family will be taken care of for a very long time. And here's what it is. It's not the president paying the money. It's the taxpayers saying, we let you down by allowing these clowns to be in office. This is our mea culpa financially. I would rather give money to a family that has had his rights violated by our executive branch than billions of dollars to people that shouldn't be here getting housing, food over other Americans. I would happily rather pay that dummy tax to that family, even if he was my mortal enemy in his mind. He's not my mortal enemy. And he wasn't when he was alive. I'm not making a joke. He was not my mortal enemy when he was alive. I would love to sit down with any of those people if they could have a rational conversation. I know a lot of them can't, and I know a lot of our side can't, but I would still try. And until being faced with him as a mortal enemy, I would not use force on him in any way, shape, or form. And so that's it. We have crossed the threshold where we're in. It kind of leaves my last point. we, the citizens of this country, have created and we own the government that we have now. And it's not, you could be like, oh yeah, Trek, I'm a leftist and I think you're talking bad about no, I'm talking 50 years of administrations with little encroachments on the Bill of Rights and all of our rights. And then we keep going, Netflix is on, I'm fat and happy, bread and circus, our rights are getting trampled just a little bit, trample me harder, daddy. And we keep allowing it going until something like this happens. It almost splits the country down the middle and everybody wants to argue instead of looking in the mirror and saying, we have allowed these clowns. How the audacity to have a president of the United States say that I am a criminal to go to a protest with a gun on. How did we allow this lack of a gene pool to get to the top of the representatives? And that is the very thing about government. Government is force. Government is nothing but force. And what we've done as a country is we've said we are electing representatives to represent the force that we want put out in the world. And those representatives, whether the president, Congress, Senate, they then hire law enforcement. Those law enforcement do things that we cannot do. I can ask, I can tell. Mm-hmm. That's it as a civilian. You know what we do? We look at these people wearing blue, tan, green, all these other different colors that we hate one day and love the other, is we say, hey, I want you to ask them. I want you to tell them. I want you to make them at the barrel of a gun. That's our force. That's us. So anyone that has a problem with ICE, HSI, AFOSI, FBI, local, state, whatever, that's your fault. If they're out of whack, it's your fault because you didn't get involved enough in the process and we've sat back long enough and we've just said, you know what, I'm not going to worry about it. And that's really, truly where we're at is we need to get control of our force again. And the thing that boggles me about this, I think there's been a change of tactics that should never have been there. Tom Homan's an American patriot. And if you want to argue with it, look at any administration he's worked for, both Republican and Democrat. He is mission-oriented, constitutionally oriented to the best of my knowledge, and he's trying to get the job done that the government has said you have the authority to do, right? So whatever's happened, they got out the previous team lead. Now they got Holman in there, and what they're saying is no more sweeps. We're going for criminal aliens. I get it. You're in the country. You're an elite. You're breaking the law. But he's talking about rapists, murderers, things like that. The thing that boggles me about this is, and if you want to really know who the true enemy is, it's 534 people. Because all you have to do, and this is one of the greatest quotes, if you're a Firefly fan, you're going to love it. If your quarry goes to ground, leave no ground to go to. And what this means is send these specialized agents out. Work with law enforcement. I know there's places that won't. Work with law enforcement. Get those criminals off the streets. As far as the person that is just in this country illegally, well, we own it. You know how we own it? Potato brain, Biden, who allowed in an open border. That's on us. We elected him in, or the democratic process worked, and we got him into presidency. He opened up the border. That's all on us. And we didn't rah, and rabble, and shut it down. But all you got to do is look to the people that have the power, and that is the House of Representatives and the Senate. And you know all they have to do? Actually sign laws that say no more housing for illegals, no more WIC, no more EBT. There is nothing. If you are Tyson Foods and somehow you try to say that you didn't know you had 1,500 illegals shucking chicken, you go to prison. If we leave no ground to go to and say $2,000 plane ticket, we're not going to put you in handcuffs. We're going to literally escort you to the plane and you can go home. You leave no ground to go to. You don't need to raid. Just shut off. And here's the thing. If you are then the American that says, I'm going to violate the law, I don't think you'd have your door kicked in if you want to house 20 illegal aliens. I hope you got the money for it because we, the taxpayer, are not giving you ground to go to. You've opened up your house. You've made the choice as the American citizen to harbor someone that's not supposed to be here. I don't wish you harm, but you're going to financially pay for it. Just don't make your neighbors pay for it, right? And that is and to me, that's the magical thing. This is all being sown by people that have the power to fix it. They could fix it in an instant, but they love it. They love it. Why?
I've actually made.
Sorry, I'm wrapping up. I know I do a lot of talking.
No. I mean, I've made that point multiple times. I know I'm not the only one. I'm not a genius about this, but like, if you really wanted to fix the issue of illegal immigration, there's only really two things I think you need to do if only there was a political willpower to do them. First of all, is exactly what you said, which is you hang the sword of Damocles over the head of every employer in the country, and let them know, if you're caught employing someone who ain't supposed to be in this country and doesn't have a legal right to work, I'm going to disassemble your company. I'm going to hold you individually, personally liable. I'm going to ruin your finances for life. And those HR directors, those CEOs, CFOs will get very, very religious about double checking everybody's I-9 forms. Because when I was still in the private sector and hiring, I had to do paperwork on foreign nationals to verify their right to work in this country in my company. And by the way, I had 2 guys from Honduras, some of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. I had no issues with them, but I made damn good sure their paperwork was straight and they had a right to be in the country, because that was on me if otherwise. And the only other thing you got to do is take all of this freaking welfare for immigrants and buy it up.
That's exactly it.
Immediately. Yeah. Because if there's, I really believe if you remove the incentive for people to come here, unless it is truly for a better life, if someone comes here with motivation, with job skills, with goodwill in their heart, and they want to make something of themselves they couldn't make in their home country, I got no problem with them being here. But I have a problem with people showing up and plugging themselves into a very well set up welfare program funded on our backs, and they just want to suckle at the teat instead of making something of themselves.
America is one of the most charitable countries out there, and the problem I have with welfare is that welfare is forced, charity is given, and I think America is very charitable, and we all have problems with it. Whether you don't have to work or do drug tests, but my tax money goes to people that don't have to work or do drug tests or be trying to find work, right? And so that's a big issue. But I don't even want extra penalties to companies that hire illegals. There's already laws in the books. Just enforce those laws. It's the same thing that we scream every single time someone does something wrong with the gun, and we go, "There's already a million laws on the books. Just damn enforce them," and we'd be perfectly happy with it, right? I love the comment about I'll put it right next to the release of the Epstein list. You're right, man. And that's my last point. We're going to talk about that in a second. But as a private investigator, I did a case with an American citizen who was married to an illegal alien, had 2 kids that were American citizens, and it was a protection case. This was one of the first cases that I had in Michigan. It got a little compounded when I found out that this legal alien was a confidential informant that was still being allowed to sell drugs, even though that's not supposed to be the way that it worked. But when I went to the Social Security Administration, I had 2 Social Security numbers for him. And the most interesting thing was the first one. They were like, "Oh, yeah, we know this Social Security number. It's been used like 5,000 times." They know. When they're fraudulent, they know. So the moment, as you mentioned, Phil, when it comes through and you do e-verify and it's like, bing, oh, that's a well-stolen social, that's when you just send Leos to Tyson Foods. And Tyson, don't sue me. You've got through the ringer quite a bit with this. And go pick up that person. Like, hey, who is this person that's using the social? The other one, by the way, the Social Security number was given to the illegal by our own government as a confidential informant. Won't go into that. That was a mess. So, the systems have been in place. I mean, my God, this was 2011 when I did this case. So we've had this e-verify. Yeah. They know Social Security numbers and things like that. The problem is the government, as we've just found out, look what's going on, not in Minnesota as far as this awful stuff, the violence on both sides, the violence that's taking place. Look at the fraud. Look at the stuff that's going on in Maine that's getting uncovered. And the worst part is it's not getting uncovered. It's getting found out. Because a lot of people, it's getting out to the public, right? And that's the problem is we as Americans are very charitable, and now we're finding out. And I've seen lots of people right and left on social media that are saying, why do I work and pay taxes and do everything by the law? Oh, that's right, because the government will kill me if I don't. But if I am an immigrant that comes in that plays a system, I can make lots of money. People leave me alone because all I have to do is cry X, Y, Z, and they'll leave me alone. And so, all of this is a compounded either intentional action or intentionally left alone to fester. I don't know which one, but I do know it's one of those two. And it's the same as when you see a politician that's against the oath that they took. It's either gross ignorance or intentional action. And it's the same thing that's applying right now here. That's it.
You bring up the fraud that's been going on. I cannot help but think that it is intentionally left to fester because they are profiting from it directly.
Today, this was funny. I follow an account on X that follows our politicians' stock trading. And 2 years ago, there was a satellite company, and this post said, hey, this new senator just bought 500 shares of this worthless satellite communications company. And I was like, well, I got a couple extra bucks in my account, so I bought 10 shares. Yeah, 600% later, 2 years later. And it did a follow-up and said, hey, remember when we said this 2 years ago? And I'm like, yeah. And now she's sitting fat and happy. And they just saw another one where they bought clearly insider trading, and they didn't announce their trade until a year later and paid a $200 fine. Kept it secret from everybody for $200. Yeah. So, don't get me going on that steamboat. But what I would like to do is we're about an hour in, and this is kind of where I hope I've done a lot of thought about this today. We have to have that moment of calm, and hopefully we've got some critical thinking going on with the use of force constitutionally, and then the executive branch. What they say it can't affect our agents. It can't affect our law enforcement, and it has to allow justice for the family of the person that was killed. Just as I would hope if it was you or me or my wife or anybody out there, a stranger, if we have any faith in the system, we have to give it the time for the evidence to come out and not listen to the machine that is churning to try to get us to fight. Because right now it's very orchestrated. So here's where we're at. And this is philosophical only. I'm going to put this caveat out there because it really is a very important conversation about a very important old document, paragraph 2, sentence 3. And if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to say it here. You should know it. It talks about what happens when your government doesn't represent the people and is abusing and usurping the very people that they're supposed to govern. And this is the conversation that I actually would turn towards the people that are protesting / rioting / mobbing our law enforcement. And the message is you're either really incompetent revolutionaries or you're just dumb criminals. And I say that with all love. And I've thought about this a lot today. I don't mean to be an insult. But here's the thing. Right now, the majority of people don't believe what you're believing. And that's very clear. If you allow a conversation, that is going to be the best way that you can get more people to your side. Middle fingers, bullhorns, throwing ice, biting fingers off, and committing crimes well armed. Not saying you deserve to be killed, but it's not helping things. And so I say this as
it definitely doesn't sway people
here's
to
the
your
thing.
side.
I'm going to talk to my right-leaning people too. If I see one more of those 1984 Orwell, don't obey your eyes and your ears, it was their final command, I'm going to puke. And I am guilty of sharing that in the past. And here's why. Just like Idiocracy, and I posted this in the alumni group, just like Idiocracy went from a comedy to a documentary, George Orwell's quotes, and many of his quotes, are going from a dystopian nightmare to a meme. And it's because we're allowing them to. If you are out there right now, and you've listened to what we have had to say, I know I've done a lot of talking, so I'll take the brunt of it, and I have hurt your feelings. I'm sorry, because I didn't mean to. I actually care about you and how you are in this mesh of humans that make up the United States of America. I don't have much faith in the government. I have incredible faith in what this country means. But you need to have a serious talk right or left with yourself in the mirror when you start doing what's happening in Minnesota. And here's why. As I mentioned, incompetent criminals, dumb criminals are incompetent revolutionaries. If you put that poster up there and you say, it's George Orwell's 1984, okay, I want to mention a couple things. Gulf War I, Gulf War II, 9/11, JFK, RFK, USS Liberty, 9/11, Building 7. Need I go on? Weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, where I went to war for a lie. You know what? Over 1 million people have been killed. I went to war. We had people get maimed and murdered. No one's been held accountable. Operation Fast and Furious, Linebacker, everything the CIA pretty much has ever done. The heart attack gun, Laos and Cambodia, landmines in Vietnam. I mean, all this stuff. You want to keep putting that poster up there. What you're saying is the usurpations and the abuses that my government has done, I don't believe them anymore. And you know what Orwell was saying is you better grab your gun. So we have a choice as right or left. People in Minnesota, I don't agree with what I'm about to say, but if you truly believe it, you better get it on. Better get it on. Because if you're truly a revolutionary, you're not doing it right. Because you're going to get steamrolled. And your pictures are going to get put in mugshots. You're going to lose your jobs. And you're going to lose your livelihood. And maybe you didn't have one. But you're being incompetent. You're bringing bullhorns to a gunfight. And if you're just someone that believes that ICE actually has the constitutional authority to deport people, and they do, I got to be honest, they do right now until the Supreme Court or some court says that they actually don't. But right now, the U.S. government, the people we put in charge, the guns that we put in charge, hired the people that are doing it. You are being a dumb criminal because you're going to keep getting pepperballed, beanbagged, flash bang. Don't grab those, by the way. Sting. Water cannon, sting ball grenades. I'm actually impressed that they haven't just sprayed people with ice cold water when it's 14 below zero. That's all I would do. Took that lesson from an old South Dakota farmer that had a drunk show up at his house in the middle of the night. So where I'm going with this is I'm not making fun of the left, and I am making fun of my people on the right. Stop sharing that damn poster. Are you going to become a Leo? Are you going to start writing your representation? Are you going to start writing the representation to people that are the other political party because you think you won't get anywhere? Or are you just going to grab your gun? Or are you just going to keep posting stupid memes? I'm getting sick of it. Right now where I'm at is I don't see enough for me to grab my gun and go against the United States government. I don't. I'm not happy where things are going because I know the consequences of failure. I know that good people right now, if you want to carry on that, a lot of people are going to see you as being a basic criminal. And they're going to fight you being a basic criminal. Even though maybe if you talk to them, you could have actually got them on their side. And you know what? If you get enough people on your side, we don't need to grab rifles. We just oust these freaking fools from government.
Yep.
But the problem is we own every single thing that is happening in this country because we are fat and happy. And we just keep sitting back and saying, you know what? Rabble, rabble, rabble. Let me grab my rifle. By the way, I can't do a sit-up. I can't run a quarter mile. Okay, you know what? I'm going to wait for wave 5 and 6 with the rest of the military veterans. We're just going to laugh their ass off. But when you do have special forces guys that are saying that what they're seeing happening in our country represents a color revolution, and that most likely it's not domestic. There's probably some people outside our country that are doing exactly maybe the playbook of the KGB that's been broadcast since the 1980s. You should probably wake up and say, you know what? The person across the street from me that's got a different political party flag, they don't want to kill me and my family, but we do have big differences and we should talk about it. And that's the thing. So left, get it on or don't. Get it on or don't. But don't hurt your families because you're going to lose your jobs. You're going to get pepperballed. You might die. I feel bad because I think the guy, and I think the two people, so the three maybe, I don't know the guy that was the trafficker down in Arivaca, which I'm going to be very close to tomorrow. I don't know the ins and outs. I'm waiting for the report of investigation, but I sadly have a feeling that they are martyrs for a cause that they're being manipulated in. And for the people right out there, don't just go say we should, George Orwell's out there. Well, you know what? We got a midterm coming up. Maybe it's time to say I'm not just going to keep voting for my color. I can tell you right now, I've been lied to enough. Federal elections, you better show me Thomas Massey. I ain't voting for anybody but Ron Paul, Thomas Massey, because everybody else is corrupt as hell. Everybody else is corrupt as hell. But you show me somebody that is worth my vote, okay. And if you're like, well, you're not going to vote, you're just going to give it to the other side, yeah, and maybe that speeds things up, and we just get on with paragraph 2, sentence 3. But the reality is I can't support blindly a red or a blue just because they're that party, especially when they say that I am a criminal when I go to a protest because I carry a gun. So all I would say is as we go through this podcast, I know we only touched the tip of the iceberg. Calm, steady. Don't hate your fellow man. Don't hate people that might be in this country that aren't here legally. Just protect the borders, and we can do things nonviolently to make it where they'll have to come in the proper way, like many of our American citizens have. My great-great-grandparents came in 1907 through Ellis Island. We were the Von Utrechts, and now we're the Utrechts because the Ellis Island people didn't know what an umlaut was, and Von. So now we're the Utrechts. It means from Utrecht. That's what our family comes from. So, a lot of us out there come from immigrants, but we can't keep going where our taxpayer dollars are being boondoggled. And American citizens are going hungry without pay. We see what's happening with the fiat dollar. My Bitcoin ain't doing good right now. I'm glad I bought silver at $17 an ounce, right? But Jesus, we have so many other issues. Don't start grabbing the cartridge box yet. Ballot box, letters, things like that, because I'm telling you, the playbook, we're at the top of the pyramid of the insurgency playbook, and it's going really well. And it ain't, I guarantee you, it's not a red-blooded American running or Americans running that playbook. It's people that want to destroy this country. So, yeah, take a deep breath, calm, pause, and talk it out.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, did y'all see that a couple of months ago there was a major effort made? I want to say this happened on X, but they started listing the country of origin of all the different X accounts, and people very quickly latched on to the fact that there was a lot of left and right political accounts that were actually being run by foreigners.
Of course there were.
And I don't mean
they?
immigrants. I mean people in Europe, people in Africa, people in Russia. And it was like everybody had this brief moment on the internet where they were like, oh my God, these people are trying to shape public perception. And I'm like, latched onto this?
Well, I mean, why would they not? What does it cost? What does it cost to run 100 X accounts?
I mean, haven't you, Nick, haven't you and I talked enough about, oh Jesus Christ, the book written by those two PLA colonels.
Oh yeah, the
Unconventional Warfare.
Yeah, Unconventional Warfare.
Anybody that hasn't read that, by the way, just Google Unconventional Warfare, and when you find something written in the mid-90s by a pair of PLA colonels with Chinese-sounding names, read that.
Oh, yeah.
And then come back and talk to me if you're...
a gunfight was started.
If it scares the hell out of you, we're going to be really good friends. And if you read... It's like, that is my new Idiocracy litmus test. Back in the olden days, a much younger Phil used to say, if you watch Idiocracy and find it entertaining, we're probably not going to be good friends. But if it scares the crap out of you because it's happening, we're going to be really good friends. This is my new litmus test. I tell people, read that and come back and talk to me. If they come back freaked out, I'm like, we're going to be really good friends. We're going to be weird friends, but we're going to be really good
quick
friends.
Shout out to Stuart. They want to have a conversation. Brother, there's going to be people on both ends of the spectrum, whether it's diehard KKK, if they're a different skin color than me, they can't be part of my group, all the way to if you don't believe that it's LGBTQ, XYZ, WZ, and men can get... There's going to be people on both sides that you just can't talk to, but they are the ends. There is so much more in the center. So that you have some faith. I still have some faith to that. But two points, Phil, that book, one of the most impressive things, and it has a very real message to what's going on right now. In that book, they talk about using one man with a Moise Nagant that low crawled between a U.S. position and a South Vietnamese position and fired a pot shot at the U.S. and fired a pot shot over there at the South Vietnamese, and a 20-minute firefight ensued. Well, this individual just laid in the mud, and luckily nobody was killed. It almost seems oddly familiar about things like what's going on right now. And as an interesting thing to the bots that are out there, are these foreign accounts. If you've never read the Unclassified History of Area 51, it's a great book. Annie Jacobson, she also did the book recently on nuclear war. I cannot remember the name of it, but I need to read it. She's an incredible author on national security issues. She talks in the book near the end, and I'm sorry if I'm going to ruin it, but it's about Area 51, and there's some really weird things that happen that are very realistic. But of course, everybody wants to talk about the Roswell incident and the crash that occurred. And supposedly in one of her interviews with a guy on the deathbed, she talks about, well, we took these crashed alien bodies out. And what it was is, he said, the Russians actually had surgically, and if you go back in the history, the Horton brothers, who designed flying wing bodies, during the end of the World War II, they were snagging as many, I think it was Operation Paperclip, they were snagging as many scientists as they could, both the Russians and the Americans. And the Russians got a lot of the flying wing, the flying body guys, like a flying saucer. And they basically found these kids in a crashed, this is hypothetical, not hypothetical, it's alleged. They found these bodies of human kids that had been surgically altered with giant eyes, big heads, and they were in a crashed spaceship. And the whole thing was, they weren't supposed to crash. They were actually supposed to land their weird ship, get out, wave at people, freak out the farmers, take off, and keep doing it all around. And she said, all right, dude, it's a crazy story, but my God, if the United States had evidence that they were modifying and butchering children to do it, why would the U.S. government not go, look what they're doing to their children? And his last words were, because we're doing the exact same thing to them. And it's chilling. And it's 100, like back when I read it, I'd be like, you got to be kidding me. Now I'm like, oh yeah, they're doing horrible things. So we're playing psyops games, and they're playing psyops games. I mean, so yeah, it's keep a calm head, steady, and just wait. That's going to be the biggest thing. Is they want to rile you up. Wait for the facts. The facts will come out. And just, I hate to say it, just like George Floyd. And I was wrong on this podcast where I was like, yeah, the medical examiner supposedly is saying he died from asphyxiation. Turns out that's not what was said in any way, shape, or form. So it may take a while. It may take FOIA requests. You might have to go out and actually do some legwork. Luckily, there are a lot of citizen journalists that are trying to get the evidence out there. But don't bite the rage bait. Look out for AI deep fakes. There's supposedly something going around about his nursing, he got fired for cause for hurting patients. That, as far as I know, that is complete baloney. I haven't heard anything about that. Be wary of that stuff. Just like the execution picture that's going around. So just be very, very careful.
Have a head.
There have been a few nurses recently that have come out and made comments about intentionally harming members of ICE if they come into their practice, and they have been fired for threatening patients and for violating their oath.
As they should.
You have the right to say what you want. You have the right to suffer the consequences of what you say. It is the most beautiful thing about the rights protected under the First Amendment. Yeah, there's some psychos out there, and there's some psychos on both sides. I mean, you guys remember killing people. It's time to start locking, loading, and killing people. Well, that wasn't on their side. That was on our side. Made into a hell of a jingle, by the way. And imagine all the people that trained with that school, and now, okay, you can't hang that diploma up on your wall for graduating handgun 1, because if you get into self-defense shooting, they're going to put your instructor up on the wall yelling, killing people, lock and load. My God, this is the stuff that let the calm heads prevail. Let the calm heads prevail. And if you think about it, if you want a little joke, wave 1 will be the crazies on both ends. So maybe just let wave 1 go, and then we can.
I think that's what we're currently seeing.
But I joke because people will get hurt if it goes to the cartridge box, and people are already getting hurt. But understand that it's our fault. It truly is our fault. We've got to take back control of those that supposedly represent us, and the ballot box is a big one. Writing letters, making your voice heard. You've got to do it, because Netflix and the cool shows that are on. That's bread and circus. That is a classic technique from the Roman Empire, and they are using it against us. If we were all pilgrims with candlelight and no Netflix and no Instagrams, think about it. The Boston Tea Party happened because people had nothing better to do than to pay attention to what was actually going on. So, yeah.
Yep.
So as we wrap this up, I'm just going to put it out to vote. Does anybody want to give their initial armchair assessment, or is kind of the mood in the room
I wouldn't, because you know what that does? That gives us, I would say, wait till the facts come out, because what that does is gives us a chance to divide. Because none of us, only the prosecutor, investigator, possibly grand jury, and jury will ever have the full facts until the full report of investigation comes out. And I hope that you guys have me back on when that does come out.
We will.
Yeah.
I think the only comment I have to it is that I get it. I get why people are upset about this on both sides of it. It does, optics-wise.
Sure does.
It looks really bad. It sure looks terrible. The statements of the politicians afterwards, really bad. Sure looks terrible.
Yep.
And that's really the only reasonable thing I can say about this, other than you just have to.
And to all the leftist protesters out there, cover yourself in the Epstein list, and it'll be like predator camouflage. No one will find you. Just going to throw that out there.
Get some dirt on
the whole
the
Epstein list all over, and you'll be like, in the trees glowing.
Can't
That's
be
right.
seen by federal agents.
I mean, I would go as far as to say that, like, on the initial look and everything I've seen so far, that this doesn't look good.
No.
I can't make the leap to like true criminality because I just haven't seen enough to push me there. I can't even go as far as to say that, like, I can't go as far as to say there was a mistake made because I just haven't seen all the information come out. I will say that I feel like there's got to be some culpability somewhere in this. And I really, really hope, and I said it in the Patreon group, like my most ardent hope in this is that the investigation is done in good faith, that if somebody screwed up, that person needs to be frankly held to account and it needs to be public. There needs to be some faith restored in this process. And this cannot amount to what the politicians have already tried to turn it into, which is a typical government screw job where everybody on the right says good shoot just because they're on the right and the person got shots on the left. And this cannot end up being everybody on the left says bad shoot just because they got shots on the left. We as a nation have to cut that off at the knees and start to say, no, this needs to be looked at very dispassionately. It's like when Stewart started off by asking, like, what about the incident on January 13th? And you were very quick to say, not really relevant. And it's the truth because those officers didn't know that. They didn't have access to that information. I really just think that
even if one of the officers there did know that, was
still
there,
not relevant.
it's still irrelevant because that's not what is
It is.
occurring today.
And in the same vein, the fact that he was armed is only relevant to maybe to the degree that like force was used to subdue him. But the simple fact that Alex Preddy was armed is not licensed to use lethal force. It's like there's been so much crap thrown into this bucket to try to color this one direction or the other. But the simple fact of the matter is that, like, from everything I've seen, it looks as though the gun was out of play. I would really love to see some discussion from the law enforcement perspective after this is analyzed about, was there a procedure to let all the other officers know the gun was out of play? Was that followed? If the answer is no, there was no procedure, then maybe there probably ought to be in the future. Like, to me, I always go back to a very basic premise that I learned in the private sector, which is that anytime there's an incident, it means one of two things. Either A, our procedure was wrong because our procedure allowed this thing to happen, and that means you fix the procedure. Or B, the procedure was not followed, which is the reason we had this problem. So to me, there's got to be some accountability from law enforcement's perspective about what could we have done so that this never, ever, 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 ever happens again. And if the answer is everything was done perfectly and this still happened, then I say that we got to change something up. Because I just can't stomach the idea that a person that was disarmed by law enforcement was then shot, and there's something to be done.
I will go further, Phil. It was a mistake. If he's not providing a lethal threat and he's shot, it's a mistake. The difference will be criminal culpability or reasonable officer standard. His family is going to get a payout at a minimum. They may get justice as far as a criminal conviction. They're going to get a payout based on the evidence that we know so far. It was a mistake. Anytime a human life is taken when the force that was being directed at the other was not lethal force, them believing it was may make it justified. But it's still a mistake because he was unarmed. He was unable to do what they believed he was trying to do. And that's okay. That's being human. It's horrible. And it's horrible. And it's one of those things, too. There was a case recently, and I won't keep us going. There was a case in Colorado where an individual shot a cop killer with his handgun, grabbed the cop killer's AR-15, and was shot by responding law enforcement. Now, I don't know the end of this, and I've told my students this. There's a big difference where, was he shot by law enforcement simply for holding the gun, which is wrong? Or was he not watching his muzzle, maybe up when the cop came around the corner and the cop thought a lethal threat and fired and then finds out that he was the good guy? But simply if the cop said, I saw a gun and I shot, that is a criminal offense. But if he was like, I was in fear for my life when I rounded the corner, there was a muzzle of an AR-15 pointed right at me. I'd already heard about an individual down, shots being fired. So we already know it's a mistake. It's just a matter, was it a wantonly criminal mistake? And that's it. Like I said, I think this will be studied. And you're right, there will be training that comes from this. But here I can also tell you that all the best laid plans go right out the window when the first shot is fired. But training, just like why we train the firearms, is if I can make 360 degrees of a choice, good and bad, front 180 good, bottom 180 bad, and I'm untrained, well, the chance of me picking one of those is really wild. When I train, I close the window on my bad mistakes. And that's it. So these guys, by the training they had, maybe they'll go back and there'll be a new code word phrase like, I don't know what it would be, but simply, hey, if you grab the gun, guys, I've got the gun, I've got the gun, I've got the gun. Or we're not going to say gun. I'm going to say I have the weapon, I have the weapon, I have the weapon, because gun sometimes is associated with gun on a range, which is what I know that I've used and what federal instructors have used. So these are things that will come from it, but really what's in the boat right now, that family is going to get justice. And I know that if they lost a family member, if I killed somebody as a criminal, my mom would still love me. And so I say this knowing that the family, even if he is a quote unquote criminal, they lost a loved one, they will get some form of justice, whether they believe it to be justice or not, most likely in the form of a very large payout. I do not believe that there will be any criminal charges against the law enforcement officers. There might be administrative, punitive, or termination of the officers involved. That's just my take right now based on what I know, based on the fact that their union is going to bring all the case law, the fact they had no local, state backup. They were in a very hostile environment. It was a really bad situation. And I do hope that the change in command makes some more common sense decisions. Yeah, let's not do these big sweeping raids. Let's do very targeted raids, and let's remove scorched earth, the fertile ground that allows people to be where they're not supposed to be. And I think if we can do that, I think we're going to have a lot more success. And if we, the people, then also start holding our executives and our representatives accountable, we might have a chance to turn things around. Sad part is, as I've been on this show many times, we keep just going, like we're just keep feeling like it gets worse and worse, but it either will, and then there's a reason for why we train, or we can get ourselves out of it and then we don't have to. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody out there that actually cares about having this discussion, because I worry. I try to, man, X, that's a hostile place, man. People are just, people are really
a hostile place. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what part of it you're
and
on.
it's great when I go out here in New Mexico and on our travels, and you say good morning to people, and they say good morning back. And I've met people that clearly are not my political party, and we have conversations. And yeah, we won't talk politics because that'll probably get blood pressures up. But we look at each other. We are human beings. We are Americans. We are maybe different nationals, but we are human beings, and we can have that conversation. And so go out there, talk to real people, get off the internet, and start getting involved. Otherwise, they're just going to keep driving the wedge between us.
Yep. All right. Before we wrap it up, Trek.
So
where can people find you? The unintentional feelings.
I'm currently doing EP work for the most part. I've got just got back from Cabo St. Lucas. That's a really difficult place to do protective work, but I was there with a great client for 9 days. I'm doing the gypsy thing. When they call, I go wherever I need to go. But I am an adjunct instructor still for MDFI. So you can reach them at trainmdfi.com. I am no longer doing live fire instruction because I have enough gray in my hair and my beard. But I am doing all of their use of force instruction in our gun called When a Gun Is and Is Not an Option, which is all about the stuff that we talk about to make sure that you're on the right side of use of force. And I'm also teaching our non-lethal training ammunition Beyond a Door, which is 2 days in the shoot house with me. And you get to learn how to get off the square range and move around structures with yourself and other people safely and controlled, and we do photorealistic targets and things like that are making you think, shoot, no shoot. So those are the classes that I teach. So trainmdfi.com, you'll find me there. Otherwise, I am Trexico Trek on Instagram, and you can follow my gypsy wares and ways as we go across this desert adventure, as we avoid the great planet Hoth, which I do not miss in any way, shape, or form, which turns out it's going to be Miami, Florida tomorrow. So everybody's going to be planet Hoth. Oh, yeah. Frost in Miami. Good luck with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw some the other day that said that as far as Tampa, Florida, they're expecting
beware of falling
single-digit wind
iguanas.
chill.
Interesting. Yeah, that is the thing. They do
Like
taste
chicken.
excellent, though, if grilled. So grab them if you got them.
And you don't have to worry about refrigerating them because they're
Pre-chilled.
already refrigerated. All right, let's go ahead and punt this one out the door. We will have Trek back on anytime he bugs me or when some more information is in, so we can have a more intelligent conversation about this with more details. But I would just say that MDFI training is a good place to look for him. And if you need his other expertise, you probably already know how to get a hold of him. And if you don't, you hopefully don't need his other line of expertise. But anyway, this has been like the most calm, rational conversation I could think of to have about all the psychosis going on in Minneapolis. And we'll see what we come up with again next week. Good night, everybody.
Night.